there's things that you learn in this group that you're not going to probably learn anywhere else.
If it was another drum and bass producer, then I'd say I don't want you to do this because I want to hoard this knowledge for myself.
It's got to be 100%. And I'm beginning to believe that I can actually get there because my hearing's improving. My expectations of what I can achieve are improving. The quality of what I'm producing is improving.
The reason I became interested was from your other media channels, especially computer music. Reading those columns, I was like, okay, this guy knows some shit.
I've learned so much from you guys that do the drum and bass and that sort of music that will definitely help in anything else I do.
I've learned more using this service than I did at 3 years being at uni doing music production.
Forget what you think you know. Forget what YouTube tells you. Come learn it properly.
What would you say to someone who's considering joining this service but is on the fence?
I was just going to say I can actually make a usable snare now.
I'd say a different insight into engineering your tracks. How can I put it? All this has been completely new because I'm coming from another era, you know, pre-wavetable and all that kind of thing. I've talked to a lot of musos about the course that I'm on, and they've always got their eyes open. I start mentioning things, you know.
You know, there's things that you learn in this group that you're not going to probably learn anywhere else, and you probably won't even hear anyone else speak about these items because maybe they don't even realize that they exist. But it's hard for me to put into words without sounding like a marketing gimmick or something.
Imagine from my side, because you know what, literally last year when I did the interviews, I did, I think 40 interviews roughly. Some of the people, they just didn't really get the concept of what I was talking about. And even some of them were like, yeah, but like, I could just Google it, man. I could just go on a Facebook group, man. I'm like, no, you don't understand. You're going to learn stuff here that you're not going to learn from anywhere else. And they're like what? They were incredulous about it.
If it was another drum and bass producer, then I'd say I don't want you to do this because I want to hoard this knowledge for myself.
I love that, George. That's wicked, mate.
On a more serious note, if I was actually trying to sell the course, I think I would just show them like one or two before and afters of my tunes. I wouldn't say anything. I'd just be like, listen, this is the tune a year ago and this is the tune now. And if they've got good hearing, then they'd be able to hear for themselves the difference.
The competition is absolutely brutal, but the amount that you stepped up means you've left a lot of people in the dust. You're not at the top yet, but you've left a lot of people in the dust. Just because you've left yourself in the dust, if you see what I mean. Your former self.
Yeah. All my old stuff just sounds just...
So anyone who's at that level that you were at is now in your rearview mirror.
Yeah.
I was going to say something similar, although I can't find the words to say it. Not in a clicky soundbite. But my expectations of the mix now have just leapt forward of what a clear, clean, punchy sound is, right?
When you say expectations, do you mean like aspirations?
Well, aspirations and my ability to get there.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And I'm learning so much because my expectation is that it's like George just said it. It's that it's got to be 100%. Right? It's got to be 100%, and I'm beginning to believe that I can actually get there, right? Because my hearing's improving, my expectations of what I can achieve are improving, the quality of what I'm producing is improving.
I'm hoping that I've put things more within your grasp, because a big part of what I feel that I do differently is I simplify what would otherwise be long, elaborate, complicated processes.
I think a lot of the quality of sound comes from the simplified process, the shift left of everything, right?
Upstream.
Left, upstream, whichever term you
yeah.
want to use. Because I'm now really conscious of, do I really want to do that? Because that's going to add aliasing, right, in the digital domain.
Yeah. But hopefully then we can get results quicker. That's a big important thing for me, because it's easy for me to say, oh, well, you need much more focus on your transients and you need way more of, I don't know, bold bass, and you need way more interesting synth sounds and blah, blah, blah. And for it to feel like it's just like a whole extra burden. And I don't want to be giving people an extra burden. I want to be saying, like, here's how you can do this, and here's how you can do this. And this cuts out loads of nonsense that you would have been doing before. Like, for example, with this snare that we've been going over, there's no EQ, there's no compressors. It's just a very straightforward, very clean, but at the same time, we're aiming for that super high level, but without all the pain and suffering that typically goes into the production of such a sound. And we're still beating people who probably would spend weeks on that sound.
One of the things that caught me in the first place, the reason I became interested, was from your other media channels, especially like for me, it was computer music. Reading those columns, I was like, okay, this guy knows some shit.
Same here. I agree with Rick's totally there. That's how you caught my eye.
Yeah, you know, Keith, it's funny because I remember specifically when I did the interview with you last year, it was one of the ones that really stood out in my mind because you were just like, shut up, Owen. you like knew. I was saying, yeah, but you know, I was saying, I want to make sure everyone's on the same page and they understand what this service is and what it isn't and what I'm about. And you were like, listen, Owen, I know what you're about. I know your thing. I'm in.
Shut up and take my money.
Sort of.
I just wrote something nice in the chat.
A bit marketing-y, but unlike other courses that constantly rehash the same tips, you're constantly challenging the norms and experimenting with new techniques to be on the cutting edge of music production. And you're quite generous with your time, knowledge, and resources. Nice, thank you. Jack says, really learning to identify sounds, articulate the characteristics, and set tangible targets has been the most valuable to me, plus a consistent stream of encouragement and inspiration. Also, I've been very hard on myself where my music is concerned in the past, and working with all of you has helped me rewrite previous paradigms I held, which has made me more optimistic and excited about production again.
I still think Rishi's quote of "this guy knows shit" is the marketing one.
Knowledge. They say knowledge is power, but it's potential power is what it is.
Snares are power, but only if you take Owen's course.
Don't really call it a course. I'd think of this as a service. I think of the Clear Mix method as a course, but it's not published yet as such in that respect. And I think of the Stereo School as a course because those are designed to be self-learning.
I'm just stuck in my career land.
Yeah.
Course, yeah.
This service is supposed to be interactive. You can make requests. You can come to the coaching call and ask questions. So it should be a bit more responsive than a course. And of course, I don't know what we're going to be covering next month. You know what I mean?
I'll tell you what the new members are going to miss out on, though, right? Is us guys, that some of these techniques have matured over the last 12 months, right? Because you originally showed us like kick design back in, and it was like, oh no, I've improved that to this. And do you remember the original snare conversation? It was like, oh no, it's like you don't really synthesize them like that. You wouldn't use these techniques. And now we've got to a point where we're kicking the arse out of a snare with this synthesis stuff, right? And they're going to miss out on that journey, right? Because it's that actual seeing the technique improve. Because even in the last 12 months, right, snare production for me, it's like we're not where we were when this originally came up. I don't know when it came up, right? But it was last year, wasn't it? Maybe November, December, we first touched on stairs. And now the snare production's just miles away from that in terms of quality of it.
It is. I have achieved these kinds of results before in the last, say, 10 years. The real difference between then and now is I've refined the process. So when we looked at snares and snare design months ago, there was a moment where I even sort of aborted and said, look, we need to come back to this. I need to think about this and revisit, because I wasn't clear enough on those steps in my mind, which is a big part of my motivation for doing this service, because it forces me to tighten up on everything. Do you get what I'm saying? Because like I said, I could get these results before, but I wasn't as methodical and as exact and as organized as I am with it now. I kind of had all the knowledge, but piecing it together into a systematized meta, so to speak, a strategy that I can share with you, is massively beneficial to me and massively, obviously, beneficial to you.
I think the new members will be fine, because as long as you catalogue the past lessons to me, it's like when I wasted lots of time on YouTube looking at things, you know what I mean? But here, if I want to do kicks, do you understand what I mean? There's loads of things about kick drums. If I want to do snares, there's loads of. So I think you'd be all right in that sense. The newcomers will be all right. If you could do something like kicks again, and then now there's enough homework to do because you can go back to the old lessons. And I still do that. It's stuff that I need to brush up on, and I'll go back to the old lessons. There's a catalogue of knowledge now.
Yeah.
The other thing is seeing the whole process. Like some of the 8-hour sets have been mental, right? Because there's so much of the process of producing music that you wouldn't necessarily put in a subject, right? Because you wouldn't think to, but you see it and you experience it, and you're like, oh right, yeah, that really makes me think about the way I'm doing these things, right? Or the sounds I'm trying to achieve, and all these kind of things. There's lots of like non-tangible benefits that I've got out of this I didn't expect at all, right? And the other thing is the community, right? I've learned so much from the others, right? Their questions they've asked, the stuff they've shared, all the rest of it. Even in like some of the stuff Keith's talked about, really something I wouldn't have been interested in terms of some of the genres and things like that, but because it's made me go and look at it and listen to it, and you're like, yeah, that's really interesting, right? Because they're doing something there that I just wouldn't have been cognizant of before, even wouldn't have even bothered looking, you know what I mean? But because someone on the forums mentioned it, it's drawn me there, and you listen to it and you think, yeah, actually there's something there that I could benefit from, right? And how do you describe that as a tangible benefit? You can't, right? You know, it's like I didn't expect any of that kind of stuff out of it.
Approaching 20 years ago, this guy called me up. I can't remember how he got my number, but he called me up and he was like, "Oh, you do studio sessions?" I'm like, "Yeah." I want to do a drum and bass track. I'm like, "Great, fine. When you're looking to come in?" It's like, but the thing is, like, you do other genres, don't you? I'm like, yeah, I do loads of other genres. He's like, see, this is the thing. I think I might be better off with someone who just does drum and bass. I'm like, it'll be fine. Like, you know, I've had stuff played by all the top drum and bass DJs, and it'll be fine. I know my drum and bass. I've been into the music since before it was called drum and bass. So just chill. It's fine. And then the Ninja's like, oh no, I think I'm going to go with this other guy who just does drum and bass. I'm thinking, as if that's an advantage. How on earth is that ever going to be an advantage? Because when you're that narrow, you're a scene-y, it's not the advantage that people think it is. Because yeah, you might have deep knowledge of that one genre, but you're losing the sort of everything else, the bigger picture of what can be done, and bringing that to the scene. Because if you're not really bringing anything external, then you're at disadvantage.
I'd agree. I mean, in my experience over all the years I've been doing this, it's you gain knowledge from all sorts of people and all sorts of scenes. You know, professionals, unprofessionals, the kid who's just doing something in his bedroom, the guy who's been doing it 50 years. You know, you can learn so much from everybody if you're that way inclined.
I think it's important to be open in that way.
I mean, I've learned so much from you guys that do the drum and bass and that sort of music that will definitely help in anything else I do, to be quite honest. It's like a never-ending knowledge, actually. It never stops. You know, that's how it feels like to me anyway.
I think I've learned more using this service than I did at 3 years being at uni doing music production.
Oh, say that again.
So I've learned more in the less than a year using
10
this
months.
service. Yeah, 10 months than I did 3 years at uni.
How much more?
I mean, I can make my own kick drums now. I'm still struggling with the snares at the moment, but
Not for
that'll
much
come.
longer.
No, but I can say to people, look, I can make my own kick drum now. That 3 years of uni, I couldn't do that. And I'm just things like like the EQ and being inspired as well, which is thanks to everyone here. I think that the inspiration, which I never had before. So it drives you on to be a better version, a better producer.
A friend of mine ran the music production course at university, and he was asking me questions all the time, and he was the course leader. And I was trying to gauge from him, what happens to these people? What level do they get to when they come out? And he was like, it's not that great. It's not really that great. It's a lot of money, but that's why there's a lot of money involved, and there's prestige with the university or whatnot. But they're not coming out the way that they were hoping when they signed up. Put it that way.
I would agree. I thought I would be a better producer after 3 years at uni than I was.
Sad, man. Sad a bit, because it's not a trivial commitment, is it, on your part in terms of time and everything?
I was just going to say that a couple people mentioned computer music earlier, and I was just thinking about that myself. Like, that's how I came in contact with you. I read some of your articles, did some of your tutorials, and then I felt compelled to get in contact. But the university courses and the production courses and all that stuff tend to be the accepted way of getting into music. But I'm pretty sure we would all agree, after being in this course for almost a year now, that it's the established and the agreed upon method is not necessarily the best method. And it kind of reminds me of just university and college degrees in general. Like, I myself, I did some courses at a community college, but I never got a degree. I never did anything, yet I have a job that the world wants to convince you need a degree to get.
I think some of that is just because when you challenge the paradigms that they're used to, it's difficult for them to swallow the pill.
Yeah.
If I was going to do a soundbite, it'd be something along the lines of, forget what you think you know, forget what YouTube tells you, come learn it properly. Because after being here for almost 12 months, it's like what I thought I knew, I basically knew all. Like,
almost reminds me of that line from The Matrix. You want to take the blue pill or you want to take the red pill?
Yeah, it's not far off that. It does open up a whole new world I didn't even know existed. It's kind of crazy, to be honest.
But in a good way, I hope.
Yeah, no, because I'm actually in a really good mood with what I'm attempting to do with this at the moment, because I had a really good weekend and I sat down and I think I've cracked making a half decent kick drum. And because I went through all your videos,
yes,
and sat down and I wrote my notes. I've got the theory and the system down to do it now.
Yeah.
And if I do that, it works. It's quite easy.
Yeah, fair enough.
Once you get the system down, because the information's in all the videos, it's just bringing it out and just organizing it into a certain topic.
I would hope, though, that my techniques, I aspire for them to be advanced in the sense of aiming for really high standards, but then not advanced in the sense that that hopefully I give enough instruction that it's easy enough and they're simplified enough techniques, stripped down enough techniques that anyone could kind of pick them up.
Yeah.
That's my ambition.
Oh, no doubt.
Because when I hear advanced, I think a lot of people think, oh, scary. Oh, I'm struggling with the basics. But you look at what they think is the basics. It's like, you need to do 90% of that crap. You're wasting your time. You're chasing your own tail. It's like, it's busy work. It's not actually effective. And of course, you're not getting the results you want. And then you think that to aim for a higher standard is going to be even more difficult. No, it doesn't work that way. Actually, when we simplify things, that frees us up to aim for higher standards because we now have a much more powerful set of techniques where we can do less work and have more control and move backwards and forwards through the process more freely.
Yeah, but it goes back to, like, if the correct technique is simple, that is advanced, isn't it? You're out there trawling through the internet or wherever, and there's a lot of half information and a lot of incorrect information. And
yeah, most of it is at least inaccurate.
Yeah, if you're basically trying to go, no, don't necessarily forget it, but this is how it's supposed to be done. I've noticed that with some of the stuff you've done. What I've seen or read, and you've gone, no, you don't do it like that. You do it almost the opposite. I think I mentioned that to you before, but you don't know that because everybody out there is basically copying each other, aren't they?
I think that when we have more people, it will be of benefit to everybody because I think more requests is helpful, more questions is helpful, more because you know what? When someone asks a question like Rich asking about the snare making fundamentals today, that's a question that just stood out. I know that me fulfilling on that is going to help everybody, including Joe, who's already happy with what we've been over. He'll be even more happy when he's got the exact step-by-step detailed outline of everything with examples. Do you know what I'm saying? So I do think that that will be helpful.